That was one reason a long time ago that I switched to LUMIX, is because I was having overheating problems on other cameras. Just taking photos in the standard picture profile on the S1R Mark II, I'm like, ooh, it looks so good. To me, this now feels like an upgrade. This feels like a huge upgrade. And there's a lot of things that I was just not expecting.
Yeah.
Also, it's really hot and humid here right now.
Super hot.
Yeah, it is hot and humid. It's like 90 degrees.
It ain't Norway. Since the launch of the brand new LUMIX S1R Mark II, there's been a lot of different opinions on that. Some good, some bad, and some pretty ugly. Well, today's episode, I'm joined with a returning guest, Dustin Armstrong, to talk specifically about, was this camera a success in general, and talk all about our personal thoughts and experiences with that camera, and then later positioning on and transitioning, would you buy the S1 II or the S1R Mark II? So without further ado, Dustin.
Here I am.
Thanks for joining me.
Bald Dustin, let me clarify it.
Yes.
He's never actually appeared on a podcast before.
So Bald Dustin is here.
Bald Dustin is here.
It's funny because in my notes I say you have been on this channel multiple times.
Yeah, I have.
But I guess context for this episode, as the last few episodes or the next few episodes, we are currently in Austin for the LUMIX Austin Summit, similar to the Global Summit, just in Austin with just the United States and some Australia folks. But I guess to kind of just dive really into this conversation, I feel like everyone knows who you kind of are. You're already being a returning guest, so if you don't know, look at the other episodes.
I like
this guy's
LUMIX
crushing
guys.
He's crushing it. Before we even get into these cameras, which are the fun new cameras, I would love to kind of bring us kind of a little bit back in time and talk about what were those first impressions of the LUMIX S1R Mark II when you first got it and started using it and put it to the test.
Yeah, I was, obviously excited just because we've been waiting for some kind of flagship to come out for a long time. But at the same time, and I know that they positioned the camera more as a hybrid, which it is a hybrid. It's great at video and it's great at photos. But at the same time, I did feel a little bit like it was missing some of those key video features that I wanted, or there might be some limiting things that you need to be aware of when using it for video. Some being the rolling shutter or the overheating, and to be honest, those things haven't really affected me, but it's still something that's on my mind while I'm using it for video, right?
Yeah, I was curious, so have you experienced rolling shutter? Have you experienced overheating at all, or have you not experienced that at all?
No, it hasn't overheated on me, but it's still one of those things I gotta be aware that this camera could overheat if I'm, shooting a really long take or something like that.
And have you gotten the symbol to pop up at all for you?
Yes.
Okay.
It has popped up for me once.
Okay.
Mostly when I was shooting 6K 60.
Yeah.
And just shooting, start and stop record for a long time.
Right.
But hasn't overheated yet.
And I feel like that's actually my biggest worry, because I have been shooting a lot of interviews, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, even some podcasts around 45 minutes typically. So, but when that symbol pops up, it's I know one thing, since I've done a lot of testing, every time my camera is overheated in my testing, the files were never broken. They were never damaged. The camera will stop it beforehand.
Yep.
But with that said, if I am in a filming environment where I'm getting paid for the job, it is something that is hard to communicate with your client. Hey, we need to take a 10 to let the camera cool down.
Yep.
And that's when the symbol pops up currently of how it's designed is no gauge of okay, I could have this camera be done on me in 2 minutes, or it could be, I recorded in 8K, the symbol popped up around 30 minutes, and I recorded for another 2 hours.
Yep.
So it's
yep.
It's a hard mix of what you just don't know.
Yeah, it's can I rely on this? Because that was one reason a long time ago that I switched to LUMIX, is because I was having overheating problems on other cameras. A lot of cameras have gotten better at that these days,
right.
Other brands, but the S1R II, it was kind of bringing me flashbacks of that. Like, I'm just so used to all other Lumix cameras that have been reliable when it comes to heat, right?
Right.
No matter what situation I'm shooting in, outdoors, indoors, yeah.
Yeah, and I've had a thought specifically with this camera in particular. I'm curious if there was going to be record limits on the S1R Mark II, but then because of the S9 having record limits so it wouldn't overheat that camera, and everyone's saying we don't want record limits, just let our cameras overheat.
Yep.
And then suddenly we have a camera that overheats.
Yep.
Which never, like, which never happened, like,
Yep.
prior to the S9.
Yeah.
No, like, I can't think of one Lumix camera in my personal, like, shooting experience and then knowing people with the Lumix cameras.
Yep.
Never heard of overheating issues.
Yeah, and for me, the S9, it like, the recording limits was kind of weird, but I was like, I mean, it makes sense because of what kind of camera it is. It's so small, so compact, so like it didn't really bother me. Even in Japan, when we were like shooting B-roll and whatnot, I was like, the record limits was never a problem for me.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I understand why it would be a problem for some people, and some people would want to shoot for a longer take, because I was like, if this is for content creators and like people that are doing YouTubers and doing YouTube and stuff like that, they're gonna want it to record even in just 1080,
Yeah.
like for an hour or maybe,
Right.
or 30 minutes even. So
Yeah, and I mean, I've personally recorded on the S9 in 6K for like an hour and 15 minutes without overheating.
same, I've had it as well.
But I do know that Lumix, from more being part of the Backstage Creators Group, when and how they've done overheating tests in the past is really extreme conditions.
Yeah.
And something I just learned actually on this trip, the manual says, which of course none of us probably look at the manuals.
Except for maybe
Maybe you. But the
Buy
manual...
my course, by the way. Shameless plug.
Link in the description.
Link in the description.
Matthew's
an
affiliate.
Yeah, Matthew is the #1 affiliate for the course right now. So
Come on. Keep
use
supporting
the
me.
link. Yeah, it supports
supporting
him,
Dustin.
and it supports me. So
What's up?
yeah.
Anyways.
Anyway, sorry.
So this is a light plug, but this, in the manuals, it does actually say how approximately long each recording could last.
I actually didn't know that. And
I
have
just
read
learned that.
Yeah, I have read most everything in
Right.
the manual.
So
that's
it does
interesting.
actually say, like, Lumix isn't, like, hiding the fact at all.
Yeah.
And I think everyone online is, like, thinking Lumix hiding the fact.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more or less from our perspective and our issue as, like, the YouTubers talking about cameras. None of us are reading manuals.
Man,
There's-
nobody
no.
reads them.
Like, maybe if they gave me a PDF and I can ask ChatGPT to, like, point
Yeah.
things out for me.
Yeah, find it.
That would be great. But I guess it's like, it's not something that's like Lumix is hiding, and they do really, really extensive testing and overheating.
Yep.
With all that said, kind of pivoting on from those first impressions of the Lumix S1R Mark II, I guess before we kind of slightly pivot into talking about the brand new Lumix S1 Mark II, overall, do you think, from an audience perspective and then your perspective, was the Lumix S1R Mark II overall a success or a failure?
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious coming from me, and I'm gonna be.
We're so biased.
Yeah, I'm gonna be biased, but to me, it's a success, and there were, some drama around it. I mostly stayed out of the drama because I just didn't really care. I saw the limitations more of things I need to be aware of. And it actually did get me more excited to take photos on my Lumix camera, because S5 II, S5 IIX, those type cameras, they take photos, but to me they never really had that like special ooh, that photo looks like real good. Like, you can make it look good with like the LUTs and everything like that, but I'm also not a photographer specifically, but just taking photos in the standard picture profile on the S1R Mark II, I'm like, ooh, it looks so good.
Yeah.
And so I can say that overall it feels like a success because it's getting me excited about things that I haven't previously been excited about on past Lumix cameras. So
I will also, I think, just add to that this specific camera, and I think the color science is very similar between these cameras. These cameras is the first cameras where I think the color science looked better than the contrast-based color science. For the longest time, like the GH6 versus the GH7 video on my channel, I thought the GH6 color science looked better than the GH7 because it was just contrast, different sensor, yada yada. This is the first time where I'm like, oh, this is really good.
Yeah.
It's
no.
really, really good.
I definitely agree. Like the first time I saw the footage on both of them, the S1 Mark II gives me S1R Mark II vibes of like footage and all that stuff. Even just like noise level.
Right.
It's amazing.
Now, I guess pivoting with that, since we've just had this camera literally for testing it for a day,
Yep.
love to hear the first impressions from Dustin on the S1 Mark II.
Yeah, so this is an interesting thing because I can actually kind of mention it now, is that I actually have known about the S1 Mark II for quite a long time, that it was on the roadmap.
Right.
I didn't know all of the features and stuff like that, but there was an exclusive thing I went to for LUMIX in New York where we gave them some kind of a bunch of us, other videographers, creators, and stuff like that, on our thoughts on what was important to us, basically, as far as features go and stuff like that. It's like a survey event where they're just trying to get market feedback, right? And to me, this now feels like an upgrade from like the S1H. The S1H felt like such a huge upgrade when I bought that camera, and it's been a long time since I've been like, even the S1R2, it felt like an upgrade, but from the video perspective, I was like, oh wow, this feels like a huge upgrade. And there's a lot of things that I was just like not expecting.
Yeah.
In this camera.
I think that's interesting because I've heard a lot of people talk about, oh, like this is just the photo camera, wait for the video camera. And truthfully be told, these are both hybrid cameras, but one I would say is a photo hybrid camera and one is a video hybrid camera.
Yeah.
Meaning this has better photo capabilities, better photo specs, and it has really good video.
Yep.
This, on the other hand, has really good video specs. Sure, this isn't recording 8K, but that's because I believe it's an overstack sensor. Yeah.
It's just it's
just different sensor.
Yeah, it's just different sensor.
But you're
6K
getting
sensor.
open gate, 60 and 48 frames a second, which is so massive.
Yeah, there's the CinemaScope thing, which was a surprise.
Right.
I did not think, like, for me, I'm like, I don't know if that's something I would really use too often in a professional setting.
Right.
But you can do CinemaScope 6K using the full sensor and everything. It's just cropped at 48 frames per second and 60 frames per second. So like that's a useful, nice surprise, right?
Arilog C3, I believe coming to both these cameras.
Yep.
So Arilog C3 coming to both these cameras, which I feel like, from my perspective, in the GH7, it definitely felt more kind of like, I don't want to say the word gimmick, but I just don't know the better word for it, but it felt more like a cool party trick. Yeah. Like, oh, my camera could shoot an Arilog. But now being in full frame, it seems like, oh shoot, this is a lot more serious.
Yeah, and I guess that's a good point bringing up the GH7 is when the GH7 launched, I was like, man, this feels like the perfect camera. It's just in a micro four thirds, which I used to be biased towards micro four thirds, and I'm much less unbiased, I guess, or I guess I'm biased in a way where after I did that GH7 project, I saw what that camera can really do. But this camera, the S1 Mark II, feels like a GH7 and way more than I ever expected in a full frame body. So
yeah.
It's very exciting.
Now, I guess I got one more question before we get into, the last question.
Okay, all right.
Before we get land to the plane. I'm curious to hear, what do you like about the S1 Mark II over the S1R Mark II, and then also the vice versa?
So one big one is battery life.
Yes.
Already. Because we shot, not all day, but half the day so far on the S1 Mark II.
One battery.
One battery. I still had 2 bars left on the battery too. And I was like, start and stop recording, changing to different modes and all that stuff. But I know for sure I probably would have gone through at least 1 battery on the S1R Mark II. So Also, it's really hot and humid here
Super
right now.
hot.
Yeah, it is hot and humid. It's like 90 degrees.
It ain't Norway.
Nope, it's not Norway. This camera, I did not have any worry of overheating. I don't know if I would have really had overheating, you know.
I think it would have happened.
You think so? Because
I think just from my personal experience, I've gotten this camera to overheat. Like, I've been recording OpenGate this entire time. I got this camera to overheat on me in 7 minutes.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And 77-degree weather, humid,
yeah,
in the sun.
Yeah, because I haven't really experienced hot weather yet either. It's still only like 70 degrees where I am.
Yeah.
And so in the dead of summer, it's going to be interesting to, you know, use this camera and see what happens, right? But yeah, here, I didn't even think about it. Like,
right.
So yeah, reliability in the overheating, the battery life, excuse me.
You're good.
And there was one more that was important.
Rolling shutter.
Rolling shutter. That's
yes,
it.
Yeah,
rolling
yeah.
shutter. Oh, and this.
Oh.
And I just gotta say, hopefully, this isn't into your last question.
Yes.
Is it gonna be something about favorite features or something like that?
Nope.
Okay, because the other thing that I am extremely excited about, and I mentioned a little bit the CinemaScope thing, but I think the thing I'm more excited about is the oversampled OpenGate, 48 frames per second and 60 frames per second. So
yeah.
5.1K, it's still 3x2. I have been dying to have that.
I mean, we know, like, on
yeah.
production calls or, like, on calls with LUMIX, I'm literally every single call, hey, when are we getting 48 and 60 frames OpenGate?
Yep. So it's technically not OpenGate because it's oversampled, but it's OpenGate.
It's still
oversampled
full sensor.
Yeah, full sensor, oversampled 3x2.
Yeah. It's not. Technically, I think OpenGate is only just saying it is full sensor width.
It's full
So
sensor
technically,
width, yeah.
it is OpenGate. It's just not 6K OpenGate.
Yeah, exactly.
Which at the end of the day, if you're using OpenGate with the purpose and mindset of like I'm delivering horizontal and vertical, your vertical deliverables should be in 1080/30 just because that's how social media wants your video files. So you're downsampling from 5K. So in a sense, you're downsampling on your image from 6K to 5.1K, right? And then from that, you're going to 1080.
Yep.
So you have so much flexibility with that. I am curious. I'm going to have to ask, and maybe I'll put it in the text right here on the screen. I noticed with the new LUMIX Flow app, there is no human detection, or subject detection on the app when you are in 5.1K. I don't know if that's a thing with HDMI yet because I just don't have a monitor on me, unfortunately. So I don't know that as we're talking this conversation. If it is a thing, it's not a thing, I'll put it on the screen saying some text here. Thanks, Matthew. But I guess now flipping this, and I will say, no crop in 60. Like, actually no crop in 60. No crop in 96.
Yeah, no crop in 96 frames per second is also new. And there's no crop. It's full frame.
Like no 1.1 crop.
Yep, no 1.1. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then
you have a 1.17 crop on 120 and 100.
Yep.
And then crop on 240?
I get to look real quick. I don't actually know on that one.
All right.
But
we'll see who gets
that's
there.
another thing too that's really exciting is that
Bro, I have an ND on.
Yeah, there is a slight crop at 240.
I assume so, just due to the fact. But in comparison to the LUMIX S1RII Mark II, it has technically, even though it's a full frame, no crop, it's still technically like a 1.1x crop up to 48 and 60 frames a second. And it's $100. If you're a video first shooter, it is $100 cheaper than the S1RII Mark II.
It is. And I was just going to mention, too, since we were talking about the 240 frames per second, past LUMIX cameras, I would mention, like, oh, they can do 180 frames per second. Not all of them. And that was something that this camera doesn't have. It can only do 120 frames per second. And I didn't really miss that because I'm not really crazy into high frame rates. But the 240 frames per second on this, it's only 1080. It's slightly cropped. But it is 100% usable. It looks actually really good. I've only done some slight, early tests. I'm excited to shoot more tomorrow, but that is something I think people are going to be excited about.
Yeah.
It's 240 frames per second that's actually usable.
So I guess before we get into the last and final question, let's flip the tables because I know we're fangirling or fanboying, over the LUMIX S1 Mark II, S1R Mark II. What advantages do you like over this camera specifically over the S1 Mark II now?
Big ones is just like the photo capability. Well, the higher megapixel, really.
Right.
Like, and I do think that, well, a lot of the features that are actually on this camera are going to come to the S1R Mark II. Not all of them, obviously, because they're different sensors, but a lot of them are. And but yeah, really the big one for me is just the higher megapixels.
Yeah.
So, and it's not, I don't need like 60 megapixels, but sometimes 24 megapixels for me, I'm like, I'd like just a little bit more.
Right.
You know?
That's
that's
the biggest thing. I mean, yes, you also do get 8K,
Yeah,
which
you
is
get
cool.
8K.
You get like a couple things like that. I'm not sure if this has the same burst shooting modes.
I actually think this has a higher burst rate.
I know it has 70
Yeah, it's like 70
electronically. And
Oh,
then
I think
10.
this has a higher mechanical shutter burst rate.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
See, this
but
is
that's
the issue
a higher.
videographers.
Yeah, that's a higher megapixel though. So the electronic burst is, I think it's 40.
Right. And you do get live compositing in both of them, but the biggest thing is going to be megapixels, 24 point something megapixel, 44.3 megapixel.
Yeah.
High res mode, you get 176 handheld.
Yeah, that's true. The high res mode, that's
96,
really cool.
I believe, in here. Still, so if you need those specs, I guess we'll get into that in one more second. So I guess before we get to the final question, where can people check you out?
Just on my YouTube channel, it's Dustin Armstrong Pro. Same with Instagram, and then the website LUMIX Pro is learnlumix.com.
Let's go.
Yep.
So I was getting excited. I was jumping the gun getting to this final question and be like, yes, let's talk about this. Who would you recommend buying the LUMIX S1 Mark II, and who would you recommend buying the LUMIX S1R Mark II?
I'm going to throw some kind of curveball into this answer.
Oh, man.
I personally think that essentially, okay, let me start with the first answer. I'm going to give you two answers.
I love this. Let's do it.
One of them is if you are a current LUMIX shooter, you've been shooting on the S5 2X, and you want a full frame that feels like an upgrade, the S1 Mark II is going to be a massive upgrade for you. Any LUMIX shooter, basically.
Yeah.
Same with anybody even who's kind of a more video first shooter and maybe does some slight hybrid or photo work and you're not on LUMIX. There's no camera like this at this price point on the market. LUMIX did it again. This is cheaper than, the S1H, and it's way more capable. And it's cheaper by quite a large margin.
Yeah.
Almost $1,000 less.
Cheaper than the FX3.
Yeah, or even, I think the FX3 with like discount and stuff, but I'm just comparing to like the S1H 5 years ago.
Right, yeah, new prices.
Yeah, the S1H I bought for $4,000. This is $3,200.
Yeah.
$800 less, and in a way, it's insanely more capable in so many different ways. But for me, because I do sometimes, I'm dipping my toes into photography. So this is the second answer, is that to me, these cameras have become the perfect combo. Because one, they have the same body. You can share all the same cage accessories and everything like that. And this one just leans slightly more photo. This one actually kind of, to me, leans way more video.
Right.
So like on the hybrid line, the S1R2 is, if this is the photo side, it's like barely over the line. You know, it's got some advantages when it comes to photo, and then the S1 Mark II leans more over here.
Right.
When in video.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
So it's still, this is the hybrid line, so it's still got like photo and all that stuff, but it leans a little bit further down the line. So
I know, and we didn't even touch point on like, and we're not going to, but like you could even, if you don't have the money for this, but you don't want to pair it with an S5 2X, you could even pair the S1 Mark II with the S1 Mark IIe.
Yeah, you could actually.
Because the color science would be even more accurate in terms of those comparing the like two cameras.
Yeah, and this is now the video A cam for sure.
100%.
And then that's why I'm like, the S1R2 is like now the perfect B cam for video. And when I need to take photos, boom, I take out the S1R2 as well. Like
rig this one up way more probably. A lot of people will.
Yep.
Good B camera. S5 IIX also great B camera.
Yep. For a lot of like hybrid events, like one in particular that I do is like live band stuff. I'll do video and photos. These are both going to be in my bag on me. Probably everywhere, but I'm like, they're both going to be on me. I'll be shooting video with this, and then I need to take some photos. Boom, got my photos. They're the perfect combo.
Yeah.
The perfect cameras to complement each other. Not even just from the feature standpoint, but also just the ergonomics, the body. They're the exact same. So,
yeah.
Yeah,
Sweet,
exciting
man.
stuff.
Well, thanks, man, for joining me on today's episode.
No problem. In a hotel room.
In a hotel room. We're here. Anyways, guys, if you enjoyed this episode and you want to hear another podcast conversation with Dustin talking about should you invest into LUMIX in 2025, check out that video right there. YouTube recommends you might like this video right here. Until next week, guys. Peace.